I don't know about a story, but just a fantastic time to be on the water. You know,
Sure.
the fall colors, the reds and the yellows and the oranges really popping right now in the mountainsides, and just a great time to be on the water.
Welcome to the Eternal Fishing Podcast. This is the podcast where a passion for fishing meets timeless biblical principles. Here we're casting our line not only into the water, but also into the Word of God. In this episode, I interview with E.J. Stern, who's an Orvis endorsed fly fishing guide operating out of Virginia, but also the Raleigh, North Carolina area. And so he shares some of his heart and some of his knowledge on catching wild brown trout on the Smith River in Virginia. I love his heart, I love his professionalism, and I love his observation that he makes about the colors in the season and the colors and the beauty of the fish and just the whole experience of being on the water. There's something special about it. So I hope you enjoyed the call with him. Before we jump into that call, let me read for us a quote. This comes from Isaac Walton in the 1653 book called The Complete Angler. This is what he says. Rivers and the inhabitants of the watery element were made for wise men to contemplate. And the scripture that I have comes from Job chapter 12, verses 7 through 10. But ask the animals, and they will teach you, or the birds in the sky, and they will tell you, or speak to the earth, and it will teach you, or let the fish in the sea inform you. Which of all these does not know that the hand of the Lord has done this? In his hand is the life of every creature and the breath of all mankind. Well, hey, EJ, thanks again for jumping on the call. I'm excited to talk to you, sir. It looks like from what I've seen on the Orvis website, you're an Orvis endorsed fly fishing guide. So I'm excited to talk to you.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Of course. So I wanted to get to know you a little bit and just ask first, where are you located again?
I live in Martinsville, Virginia.
Okay.
I recently moved there from Wake Forest, North Carolina. This year I moved to Martinsville.
What type of body of water do you fish? Which waters are you getting on?
Well, we fish a bunch of rivers. I recently moved to Martinsville to be closer to the Smith River in Bassett, Virginia, where I have a little garage where I keep a bunch of equipment and rafts and trailers to take people fishing on the Smith. I started my business originally in Raleigh with Raleigh Fly Fishing almost 10 years ago, and we were doing freshwater trips on the Neuse River and the Eno River and the Tar and Cape Fear rivers. And a lot of my clients were asking about trout trips. So 6 years ago, I purchased the Smith River Outfitters in Bassett, Virginia, and kind of like little by little, been doing more and more stuff up here as the years have gone by. We still do a ton of stuff in Raleigh and in Durham, and even fish the Haw River a little bit west towards Greensboro. But
yeah,
the Smith is like our biggest part of our business for trout fishing.
Well, that's fantastic. And I'm guessing the trout that are in the Smith River are those brown trout? Any rainbows?
Yeah. The Smith is what's unique about the Smith. It's a wild brown trout fishery. 85% of the trout in the river are wild browns, and the other 15% are close to 15% are rainbow trout. There are some brook trout too, but they're kind of elusive.
Sure.
So the rainbow trout are stocked from October through April by the state of Virginia once a month, and you're allowed to keep some of those fish. I think up to 7 of those fish. And the brown trout are protected. They need to be released if they're over 9 inches. Between 9 inches and 24 inches, they need to be released.
Huh. Okay.
So anything under that can be kept, and anything over that can be kept. But we practice catch and release,
right,
in general. So even the rainbow trout, we let them go too, and hopefully have other clients fishing in the future.
How big do the brown trout get?
I think
on the Smith?
our biggest this year was 23 inches,
Okay.
and our biggest rainbow this year was 27 inches. So
Oh,
there's some sizable fish to be caught, trophy status fish there. What's unique about the Smith, it has highest population of trout in the state of Virginia. At like, I think some estimates are between 2,200 to 2,500 per square mile. But it also has the highest catch rate. So it's an easy fishery where most people, I mean, all my clients end up catching something there.
that's amazing. Hey, that sounds great. That hey, fishing is not always easy. So hey, I personally will take any advantage I can get. So that's great. Well, do you have a favorite between the brown and the rainbow trout to catch?
Yeah, I mean, I love fishing in general. I kind of chose it for a career because I enjoyed passion for the outdoors and
Mhm.
river ecosystems, and I love instructing people and sharing my knowledge with them.
Yeah.
Uh, I don't, I, so on the Smith, I'd say like the wild browns, I, they kind of got my heart. They're
Mhm.
each individually unique. They have more chromosomes than humans do. So
Really?
you could look at like the spotting of a brown trout, and it's like a fingerprint. You could recognize that fish for throughout its life just by its like spotting pattern. So
Yeah.
yeah, they're really cool looking fish, and they're beautiful this time of year because they're getting ready to spawn soon. And they get some extra
Mhm.
color in them this time of year to try to attract mates or you know to bed down with you. The males and females both get really colored up this time of
Yeah.
year.
Huh. That's great. That's great. So I, I'm guessing that are you dry fly fishing or are you streamers or what's your approach for them?
We fish all the styles of fly fishing. We fish nymph rig with the bobber. We'll fish dry dropper or hopper dropper, or it's like which is like a chubby Chernobyl and a nymph. We'll fish a single dry fly, and then we'll also fish streamers as well. A lot of the clients, when the fishing's really good and the weather and the water kind of permit it, we try to catch them all kinds of ways. It's kind of like we call that the Smith River Slam, where someone could catch one on the dry and a nymph and a
Okay.
streamer.
Yeah. That's fantastic. So what kind of tackle and gear are you using? What weight fly rod and any tips there?
Yeah, we use Orvis Helios rods. For nymphs, we generally run, 9 to 10 foot rods at the 4 weight range, and
Okay.
dry fly like 8.5 to 9 foot rods, and like the 3 to 4 weight range, maybe a little bit lighter with the dry fly rod.
Okay.
And for streamers, the streamer fishing on Smith can be really really good if the conditions permit it, and we look for you know rainy days like today, and off color waters and higher waters a little bit better streamer fishing on the Smith. And then pre-front conditions also are good for streamer fishing. I like to use like a 6 weight with like a sink tip line,
Right.
and
Right.
like something between like 180 to 220 range on the grain rating. And we like to use small articulated flies between like 3 up to like 6 inches sometimes.
Mm, okay. Okay. Super. So, a little bit about me. I've dabbled in fly fishing. I have a few rods, and I have tied flies, and it's something really rewarding for me to catch a fish on a fly that I tied. It's just something special for me about that from the start to the finish there. But do you get into tying flies at all, or do you pick those up from somewhere else?
Yeah, we tie a ton of flies. When you called me earlier today, I was in the I was in the middle of like stockpiling a bunch for this week.
Right.
I think the final tally after today, I tied 44 flies.
Oh man. Oh
So
man.
we tie it a bunch. I mean, but we do buy flies too. Sometimes like if we're in like a really busy period. Like I think for instance, right now I had this day off to tie. Like I think we have 31 trips scheduled in October. It's
Wow.
a pretty busy month for us, and like April through June is also very, very busy for us. And sometimes we'll just need to supplement you know, the time or with just like buying a few just to tide us over till we have time to sit down and get back at the vice and stockpile
Yeah.
supplies.
Yeah, when you're not on the water, it sounds like you're behind the vise tying up flies. Yeah. Well, do
Or
you
just resting the rowing muscles too. That's kind of a thing as well. Like
right.
we have low water in the Smith right now because we haven't had substantial rain before today, and the river they kind of lower the river in the fall to try to build the lake level up a little bit.
Mhm.
What's unique about the Smith, it's a tailwater river where it's fed by a dam, and they keep the water on at a consistent rate all summer long to keep the trout alive. And it's a pretty high level compared to where it's at right now. Now that it's cooler, they drop the water level to try to fill the lake up again. And so we're dragging the raft through some spots. It's kind of taxing on the back and the thighs and
Mhm.
forearms a little bit. But
So
yeah,
your clients have to get out, and then you pull the raft over the rocks and get back in the water?
no, me and my guides are pretty strong guys. We kind of just wrestle it through with the guides
Okay.
and try to keep the guide, keep the with the clients in, and just keep the
Okay.
clients
Okay.
dry. Like a lot of people ask about our setups. We have like a 3-person raft, like where the our guides will row in the middle and have 2 clients in full size seats in the front and back of the raft, and equipped with like hard floors so their feet can stay dry all day. And
Nice.
then like thigh braces in the front and back as well, where you can lean. Clients can stand up and lean against that for support, and not have to worry about like
Yeah.
losing their balance or falling out or anything like that. It's a
Uh,
pretty good ride.
yeah, it sounds great. It sounds very nice and comfortable. And how long are your trips when you take clients out?
I'd say like a half day is like minimum, like 4.5 hours. We try to usually fish about a 5 hour day on a half day.
Okay.
And a full day is 8 hours. Sometimes we'll go a little bit longer, and into the evening if the fishing's really good at dusk for dry fly fishing.
Absolutely. So, what I'm hearing is being a guide is a physical workout because you're having to actually maneuver the raft and get it over the rocks, and it's also technical, I would imagine. And maybe correct me if I'm wrong, but it seems technical in that you have to know with the gear and the tackle, and maybe that doesn't change much. I'm not sure. That's actually a question I have. Like when you need to change. But and then it's also interpersonal, right? You have to have people skills. So I'm curious to pick your brain about the technical side in terms of how do you adapt to the conditions, and what do you do when maybe the bite turns off or things like that. But then also I want to ask you about the interpersonal side of how do you handle different clients, because I'm sure you see all types of people and all different backgrounds, things like that. So if you don't mind, let's start with the technical. How do you adjust to the conditions in terms of, do you change flies a lot, or do you change tactics, or how do you handle that?
Well, just to go back what I was saying before, like how the water is a lot lower right now. It becomes more technical with the water being lower and clearer, right? We gotta we gotta really focus for clients on presentation, and sometimes if you're feet away from the target like zone, you're miles away.
Mm,
So when we have clients that are at different skill sets,
right.
we gotta fish them as close to the seam as possible without kind of spooking fish. So, we do take a ton of beginners, and we love taking beginners. We like sharing our experience with, having like someone's first fishing experience with
Oh
us.
yeah.
And we love that. But, the, the more skilled guys, we welcome that challenge as well. And we have something to teach them as well. So with the fishing getting difficult at times, we focus on presentation. And so to achieve that, sometimes we need to change tactics, whether it be like using thinner tippet, dialing down fly size, you know, having a rig that lands a little softer on the water are all like game changers for fishing difficult, challenging conditions where it becomes a little more technical. So, and even like something as simple as presenting a little bit ahead of the zone to let it, run into the fish's line, or all those little nuances all come into play when the fishing is a little difficult. When it's, between you and me, when it's like April and, there's 6 months of stock fish in the river and there's all the wild browns are, waking up for the spring, and, the water is at a perfect level. It's nice and high. The fishing can be like really, really easy that time of year. But right now, like with the low water, and we have leaves to concern with now as well, like in the runs. I mean, we're still catching a bunch of fish, but it's just a little bit, you got to present a little better. And that's kind of, with the advanced guys, we kind of tell them, say, our presentation needs to be good. With the beginners, we got to teach them how all those little nuances, like, let's be a little softer with our cast, or let's try to not rip the line out of the water. Something as simple as that can make a difference.
Right. Have you ever had someone that was maybe not receptive to the feedback, or didn't really want to change their approach even after you maybe tried to help them?
Yeah, I mean, there's part of being a guide, like it requires like the ability to work with a bunch of different kinds of people and find a way to connect with them. And some people you can't connect with. You just you're persistent with your viewpoint, and what works for you, and that would work for them. And if they're not receptive to it, you always maintain professionality, regardless of that. That's paramount. We pride ourselves in, 5-star rating with people, and we want to continue that. And so there will be some difficult clients at times, but myself and the guys that work for me, we just try to do our best and work through the day and be constructive, and light on criticism. I think that's one of the keys to success. I coached youth hockey for, like 25 years prior to guiding.
Yeah.
And I kind of learned early that, like, you want to keep it like a 4-to-1 ratio with like praises to criticisms. Criticisms are more constructive and like helping technique with somebody.
That's great. That's a great ratio. So 4 praises to 1 constructive criticism.
That's right.
What might be some examples of praises for clients, and then the constructive criticism?
Something as simple as, you load the rod well on that back cast, you hit the target, great hook set, way to notice the holding water. Something, there's 4 right there that are probably, used yesterday in guiding clients.
Absolutely. Well, great. Yeah, that's really great. I think that applies to fishing, but also to a lot of things in life, like you mentioned with the hockey before you were a guide and went into that. So, you talked about professionalism on the water, and I noticed, you are listed as an Orvis endorsed fly fishing guide. What does it take to be recognized at that level? Because when I see that, I think that's one of the highest levels, to just be recognized as endorsed.
Yeah, I was an Orvis pro for, I think, 4 years before I became an endorsed guide, and I had approached the management team at Orvis, and that manages the endorsement department, that I wanted to be an endorsed guide. And they kind of send me like little tests every once in a while. One test was with like the Orvis store where I had to guide a disabled angler in the water. And I had like no 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 communication that they were doing that or setting me up with that, but that went really well. And the other occurrence was Orvis executives had come down to fish with me from Vermont, and I fished him on the Eno River first, and I fished him on the Neuse River, and that went really well. And I guess the last like pre-qualification before the endorsement was just an approval with the Orvis Raleigh store, and Craig Foster, who's has grown to be a really good friend of mine. It's kind of like it was like the main test, and I think the final thing was I got invited to the guide rendezvous, and I think that was 2020 and maybe 2019. It was a while back, but I think it was 2020, and that was in Asheville, and an Orvis guide out of Colorado, and he wanted to go smallmouth fishing, and I don't really know the fisheries around Asheville, but we ended up getting some smallmouth there, and he had shared that feedback with the Orvis endorsement director, Pete Kutzer, and I think Perkins was there as well with him, so they're well established,
Yeah.
within the Orvis company. So
Well,
I got the approval, and that was it from there. I've been Orvis guide for the last 5 years now.
that's fantastic. Yeah, I've spent quite a bit of money in that Orvis Raleigh store.
That's a good one.
Yeah. Yeah. One of the things I love about the Orvis fly fishing rods, at least the ones I have purchased, is they come with, I think it's like a 20-year warrant, like some kind of crazy long warranty on their rods. I remember I, I was fishing with one of my rods in the surf in the Myrtle Beach, Garden City area, and I somehow snapped my rod. And I took it into the store, and they replaced it no problem for me. It was great service. I really appreciate those guys in the store. They took good care of me.
Yeah, 25-year warranty.
That's it. Yeah. Yeah, so that paid off for sure. So I was glad I got an Orvis rod when I did that. So, well, I'm kind of curious about maybe some stories you might have that stand out from your time on the water as a guide, whether it was a fish or a client or some combination of the both, or it's the wildlife or anything that stands out as maybe a notable or memorable story in your career.
Wow, there's so many.
Yeah.
I mean, every day is like a story. I guess I just focus on like what's going on right now with us on the Smith, and as well as like within our Raleigh and Durham surrounding area fisheries. The fall is a unique time where it's still warm during the day when we start getting cooler nights, and up here in Smith, the brown trout are starting to eat pre-spawn. They're getting close to spawning. I haven't seen any reds out there yet, but I could tell they're heavily feeding right now, and they're getting ready to spawn. They do their annual spawn around the Raleigh and the Durham area, as well as south and west. The largemouth bass like start really putting on calories this time of year. They get heavily on the feed, and because they're facing the challenge of winter coming, where their metabolisms really slow down. They don't really eat as much in the colder months, so they're like stockpiling calories as well. I don't know about a story, but just fantastic time to be on the water. You got the fall colors, the reds and the yellows and the oranges really popping right now on the mountainsides, and just
Absolutely. I'm curious if you say just had a small selection of flies to go for a brown trout, what would your fly selections be?
yeah. We fish a ton of nymphs for
Okay.
brown trout. If you want to target trophy brown trout, winter time is actually an excellent time to get to some of the bigger fish. A lot of the larger fish in our river here kind of hide and eat at nighttime in the summertime, and don't really eat during the day. And in the wintertime, they kind of come out and will eat some bigger flies in the wintertime. For nymphs, we fish a ton of like jig style nymphs between the sizes of 16 and 20. Zebra midge is fantastic. Copper John, Rainbow Warrior is a really good hit on the Smith for nymphs. And then streamers, we like small mini dungeons in yellow and olive, and I also fish some D&Ds in the same kind of colors, brown or olive or yellow. Yellow is really good because some of our larger brown trout are actually eating the brown trout in the river because there's so many brown trout. In addition to having the fishery have 85% brown trout for the trout, the brown trout make up 75% of the entire fish population, including like all the suckers and the shiners.
No kidding. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's heavy on the
So
browns.
yeah, and so they eat each other a little bit. So if you have something that kind of looks like that, that'll get them going. Brown
Yeah.
and yellow is a really good color for the larger fish.
So nymphs and the smaller streamers like the mini dungeons, and then you mentioned in the nymph side you said the zebra, the copper john, and the rainbow warrior.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah. Today I tied zebra midges in 16 to 20. I tie them in 4 colors. I tie them in black, red, tinsel, and purple.
Okay. How do you know which color to fish?
So if I go back to like presentation, if you're like getting the fly in the zone, you're going to get an eat a lot of the times. Sometimes you won't get an eat on color. Sometimes you won't get an eat on like body style. But the lower the water, I tell people like the thinner the fly should be, right? So right now the dam is releasing the minimum flow. So those fish, they have really keen, good eyesight, trout.
Mm.
And they could eat super, super small stuff. Like, I mean, tiny, tiny, tiny flies are eating right now. So if you have low water and clear water, you want to like have a really like thin bodied fly, right?
Okay.
So that's where midge really come into play. But if you have higher kind of, maybe a little bit off color water, then you need something that's a little bit wider profile sometimes for the fish to find it or see it. So it's kind of what I tell people about the Smith. So
Okay.
color, I don't know. Those are kind of like my confidence colors right there.
Sure.
I'm sharing that with you.
Yeah.
And we fish them all. We fish black, we fish tinsel, we fish purple,
Yeah.
and we fish red. It's kind of all those are getters on the Smith for us.
So I think one of the tips that I picked up when I went into I think it was Black Mountain, North Carolina. I went into one of the fly shops there, and those guys just swore about the purple, like a purple Adams, and just purple was such a big hit. And so sure enough, I tied up some I think some version of a purple parachute Adams or something like that. I don't remember exactly, but it seemed to work. My wife and we were going backpacking, and I packed in my little 3-weight fly rod and was fishing that purple and connected with a bunch of natural brook trout. They were smaller, but they were beautiful. Just an absolute wonderful memory for me because I applied that purple. So, but no, that's great. Thank you for all of these wonderful tips that you've shared, EJ. Thank you for taking the time to tell us all about those brown trout and how you go about it. If you don't mind, could you tell everybody listening how they can connect with you and maybe book a trip with you?
Yeah, first off, thanks for having me on. I always enjoy sharing with people my passion for fly fishing. They can find me at a bunch of different ways. RaleighFlyFishing.com is my website. I'm the owner of Raleigh Fly Fishing Guide Service. They can Google that. I also own the Smith River Outfitters in Bassett, Virginia. On social media, you could find me at Raleigh Fly Fishing. You could find me at Smith River Outfitter, both on Instagram and Facebook. So, and then Orvis, you could also contact me through the Orvis website under their trips. And if you look for fishing in North Carolina, you can find me there. My name is EJ Stern.
EJ Stern. Awesome. Well, thank you, sir. It's been an honor to talk with you, and makes me want to go fly fishing. And
come up and see us.
Yes.
You and your wife would love it.
Oh
You'd have
man,
a great time.
we we did a brown trout fishing up in Traverse City, Michigan. We did a big road trip many years ago and connected with Orvis fly fishing guide up there and just had a blast. Just so much fun, just floating and catching brown trout. And then, so yeah, we would love that. we would very much enjoy getting back on the water. We have twin daughters now that are 2 years old, so they kind of changed life a lot recently.
Yeah,
So,
that's
but
great. They grow up fast. My daughter's a senior at Virginia Tech, so
oh
they,
man,
they grow up quickly.
super, yeah, awesome. Well, EJ, thank you so much. And I'm sure you're booked out the rest of the week. It sounds like so you're pretty busy.
Yeah, we're gonna be cranking. Hopefully this rain will let up for tomorrow. So
Yeah, awesome. Well, I'm glad we were able to connect and wish you much success out there.
yes, thanks for having me. Take care.
Awesome. Thanks, EJ. Bye. Well, I hope you enjoyed that call with EJ Stern, learning about wild brown trout and just the nature of being a guide, taking different people fishing, whether they're brand new to fly fishing or maybe they're more experienced. Every trip has a lesson to be learned. And so that's kind of the focus here on the biblical integration is there's always a lesson to be learned. And every time EJ goes out on the water, it sounds like he just has a new adventure, a new story. He's taking in new experiences. I love that when I asked him about his stories, he starts talking about the fall and the seasons and the colors and the yellows and the reds. I love that. That's beautiful because he's saying that his life is a story, or at least that's what I think he's saying. And every day is a story. Every day is an adventure. And I think that same principle applies today for everyone, in that not everyone's willing to listen to the story or hear the truth or understand it. And let me unpack that just a little bit more. EJ was saying that sometimes he has clients that listen, and then sometimes they don't listen when he's trying to help them with their casting. Or their approach or their technique. Because ultimately his goal is to connect them with fish and have a great time. But the ones that I think listen to their guide are going to do a lot better because the guide knows the water, the guide knows the fish, and the guide knows what is going to work and what's not going to work. I love his approach about the 4 positives for every one criticism in order of helping clients stay engaged. And when I think about the Bible, there's so many positives to focus on. This idea of God's grace, God's love, this life, and that he wants us to have life abundantly. I mean, the heart of God is just wonderful, and that he would send his son to die in our place and to give us new life. I mean, there's so many positives. And so I think the more we focus on those positives in our lives, the better we're going to be willing to receive the constructive criticism from the good guide that wants us to connect with great things in our life and to understand the role of the Holy Spirit and his blessings and his glory to shine brightly through our stories. And I'm reminded of the Old Testament story of Job. That's the passage I read at the beginning of the podcast. Job was considered a righteous man. He had a lot going for him. He had wealth, he had family, he had flocks, and he had workers, and he was just doing great. And the Bible says he was a righteous man, but he lost it all. He lost everything. And some of his friends came to see him while he's in his misery. And they were saying, Job, basically, you've done something wrong here. You need to reject your God and move on and just reject this idea that you're holding on to, that somehow God is still good and God's, got good things for you. I mean, you need to just reject that, Job. And that's when Job responded with that passage I read at the beginning of this episode. But ask the beast and they will teach you, or the fish of the sea and they will declare to you. Who among these does not know that the hand of the Lord has done this? That God has done this, that God has made all things, that God is the creator. Even the beast and the sea and the fish and the earth can tell you this, he's saying. He's saying it's all around us. It's sometimes this beautiful, majestic fall leaves and the spots of a brown trout, or even the colors of the flies that we tie to catch these fish. I mean, there's just so many beautiful colors just screaming out to us a bigger reality that there is a God, and that in His hand is the life of every living thing. This bigger reality that's right in front of us, if we would choose to hear the instruction of the guide telling us, hey, I'm here. Just listen to my voice, and I want to help you have great things in your life. Not necessarily that you're going to be blessed financially or have health, wealth, and prosperity, but you're going to have great things in your life by connecting with me, the Creator, who gives the very breath in our lungs. In the theology world, or in the seminary world, we talk about this idea of all creation talking about God. We call it general revelation, meaning it's just general, it's generalized, it's everywhere. If we would see it with new eyes, and if we would hear the lesson that God's teaching us in the powerful colors, in the powerful presence of a magnificent creation all around us. Well, I hope you've been encouraged by this biblical integration here about trusting God, learning the lesson that He has for us today out there in life. Look for ways to reflect upon Him and to give Him glory as the Creator. Thank you for listening to this episode of Eternal Fishing. Hey, if you're enjoying the show, I would be honored if you would share it with your friends, your family, anybody that you think might enjoy this technical content, but also the biblical integration. Until next time.